Happy New Year and welcome to the New Year special from the Horrorbox. I'm your cheery host, Dom, and in this episode we have some horror news, look back at the films from 2023, and look to the films coming in 2024. This year of 2023 started off looking bright and maybe would not have ended up in a hellscape on the brink of an apocalypse, but heading into 2024, we sure are looking down the barrel of World War III. Hopefully the movies are solid before the end. So one last time for 2023 and looking into 2024, sit back, take a long drink, inhale a deep toke, and listen to something spooky. Let's get into some news.
This is the fucking news.
So, reporting from iHorror.com, recently we have some news straight from Stephen Chiodo, the original director of the horror cult classic Killer Klowns from Outer Space, that he'd like to adapt the wacky world of Killer Klowns from Outer Space, again, into an 8-part miniseries. Chiodo went on to explain that the miniseries would follow a new group of teenagers who have to deal with the clowns, leading to an epic adventure that takes the teens to the clowns' planet. Chiodo is quoted as saying, "We've got a great concept that continues the story of our main characters. There's a big invasion, and we end up on the clown planet. You haven't seen the clown animals on the clown planet yet. There's a whole world of things that we have in mind." In the last few years, we've seen a resurgence in Killer Klowns merchandise, which includes like Funko Pop, stuff from Spirit Halloween, and a video game that's supposed to be released next year. It was supposed to come out, I think, this year. They got moved back. They had a new publishing studio and all this stuff. Whatever. Basically, hopefully it'll come out next year. With all that, I think now's the time to strike while the iron's hot. I think right now, a lot of people are really getting into like this idea of this like cult classic coming back, and I think if you wait a little too long, it could be something like a Five Nights at Freddy's, where maybe you waited a little too long to bring this out. And I know that there was things like the pandemic and other things. I know that they had to scrap like a whole script at one point. But with this, it's been a long time coming. They've been talking about like making some kind of sequel for many years. I mean, even since it came out in '88, they've been talking about doing some kind of sequel, maybe doing a TV show. At one point, Sci-Fi was set to take over with the rights, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because it would have just been, especially since what we saw with Critters and what they did with that, it was a total mess. And I feel like what they could have done would have just not, the quality would just not have been there. They could have got people that were just not invested in it and not really wanting to make this kind of continuation. And I know that the actors are getting older, and yeah, maybe you do need to move on. And I do like this idea that like it's kind of like a semi-reboot kind of continuation. Honestly, I think it's a great idea. I know that they're looking at some kind of like streaming, put it somewhere. Honestly, I think if you were to choose a place, maybe like Shudder. I think Shudder would be a pretty good place to put it. Maybe Amazon, but I don't think Amazon's gonna take that. Or like Apple Plus. I know that they probably wouldn't. Maybe a Netflix. I know definitely maybe Hulu. But like some of these other ones, like I know Peacock probably wouldn't take it. Although they do have Chucky, so maybe we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think this is honestly the perfect time to release something new and expand the medium, and get us something new, and grab the old audience and grab the new audience. Just expand this world that, yeah, like he said, like they have all these ideas for. And I feel like we could see something that's at least hopefully on par with the original, or even just something else. I wish it just had more. because I really love the original one, and I just want more of it, especially for the Kyoto brothers, who they do such great work, and I just want them to get more work. So hopefully in the future, hopefully 2024, we get some bigger news, and we get more news. We get more of them saying, finally we've got people investing. We've got the time, the money to do it, and we're going to give you something good. So we'll just have to wait till next year. So I haven't really been able to talk about the situation with Scream 7 and Spyglass. I did post about it on Instagram. If you do follow us on Instagram, thank you. Over a month ago, Spyglass. This is how everything started. They fired Melissa Barrera for making pro-Palestinian remarks on her personal social media, which caused a lot of uproar from fans. Not from her posting, but from Spyglass letting her go, as Barrera has been set as the main character of the new trilogy of films. And why would you get rid? That would be like if Nev Campbell had posted something and Wes Craven was like, oh yeah, after the second Scream, well, we're not going to continue with her. She's fired. Like, why would you think that you could continue the story without, like, the main character? Like, this whole thing was meant to pass the baton to the new generation. That's what we got, a full passing of the torch with the sixth film. And I think that's where the direction was going to go. Was going to be so the third one was just going to be straight up just the new people. Maybe we see Gail Weathers again, maybe one more time. Maybe she finally dies. I don't know. But a day or so after Barrera's co-lead, Jenna Ortega, dropped out of the project, citing a busy schedule. Though not stated by any party, I feel as though, and this is just me speculating, Ortega dropped out more as to stand with her co-star, that that's not what she or Spyglass has stated, but I think that's more what it is that she's like, well, it could be too, she had a busy schedule, she's been doing a lot, she's going to be in Beetlejuice 2, she does Wednesday, she has a lot of projects coming up, so I think it really is that, but also, like, I would be like, you're kicking out my fellow actress or actor, and you want me to keep continuing to come on board with this? No, I'm not going to do that. Especially after what we saw this year with the writer strike and the actor strike and people standing behind each other because they know that, like, you can't just do this. You can't just get rid of people because you don't like what they're saying, what they're doing. And that's what this whole, like, summer and into, like, the holiday season has been about, was, like, making sure that these people, these studios especially, aren't able to just overstep their bounds and, like, get rid of people just because they want. And just recently we learned that Christopher Landon, who was set to take over directing duties from Radio Silence, the directors Matt Bentolini Opine and Tyler Gillette, has officially exited Scream 7. Landon posted on Twitter, I guess now is as good a time as any to announce I formally exited Scream 7 weeks ago. This will disappoint some and delight others. It was a dream job that turned into a nightmare, and my heart did break for everyone involved. Everyone. But it's time to move on. Landon went on to explain that he wishes Wes Craven's legacy can live on in a world divided. He said, what Craven and Kevin Williamson created is something amazing, and I was honored to have been even the briefest moment basking in their glow, which makes the whole situation even sadder. It really sounds like even if the film wasn't received well, like with Jenna Ortega, with Melissa Barrera, with whatever idea they were going to go with, Landon really wanted to make this film. We don't always have directors that come onto projects as fans as well. So seeing someone who was so ready to create a continuation of a franchise that they love and that essentially was taken away. It's ridiculous. The studio, Spyglass, has fumbled everything, starting with Melissa Barrera, thinking that, if we just kind of throw in some news out there too, sprinkle in like, we're going to try and get Nev Campbell back. We're going to try and get, Courtney Cox back. We're going to try and get all these people back. Some of the people that you guys love, right? To kind of like assuage us. It's like, no, you've already done bad. When you decided, that what she was making, hateful speech with that, it's ridiculous. And then to get back to Barrera, this is setting a dangerous precedent. If she can be fired for standing up for human rights and peace, who can the studio silence next, right? Thankfully, almost all of the fan base has agreed that if Spyglass continues or reboots the series, we will not be seeing it or we'll be boycotting it. Studios do not get to punish anyone for not only personal thoughts, but taking a stand against genocide. Like, that's where I'm going to say, I stand with Palestine and I'm against genocide in any part of the world. Equity, liberty, and freedom are rights. They're not privileges. And studios should know this. Studios should understand that they can't just, someone's talking up. We just got to get rid of them. Hush, 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 hush. We got to make sure that they're following in line. Make sure that they're doing what we say. Ridiculous. Like, everyone has their own thoughts, their own opinions, and there are some people out there who are being idiots on certain other shows on streaming that are saying horrible things that about Israel and Palestine, like from Stranger Things, if you know what I'm talking about. And they don't get punished for the things that they say. That's ridiculous to me, especially when it's like, you are just letting these people get away with all of this because because you're not even from that place. You're not even from this region. You've been told to think this. You've been told to think that. And you should look at it from a critical lens, everything from a critical lens. Even if it makes you think hey, I don't know if this is right. And if it makes you feel that way, then you should always stand up against it. And it's ridiculous that, like I said, who do they get to kick out next, right? That's why I wish more people would stand up against this, and that's why I'm glad the fans have stood up and said no. So for any reason, Spyglass is able to kind of shit out this movie now or later without... I don't even know what would have to happen for them to resolve this issue. Honestly, I think they should just cut their losses, sell the rights to somebody else. Maybe I would say even Dimension or something. I mean, I think Dimension still has a hand in it, but Blumhouse. I think they would probably be a better choice than Spyglass. They should just give the rights to someone else. Let them, bring everyone back on, and I think that's when everybody would be like, okay. But if Spyglass tries to think that, we can make amends, and we apologized, I think most people are going to say, not onto your and yeah, no. There are a lot of films that deserve to be remade. Some that don't, but are. And then there's some that absolutely don't, period. And one of those films in that latter category, maybe, came out 25 years ago. That film is Robert Rodriguez's The Faculty. The film, for anyone who's not seen it, is a loose adaptation of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, only it's set in high school. Early this last week of 2023, news broke that Robert Rodriguez would be producing a reboot of his film. The Faculty isn't a cinematic masterpiece by any stretch, but it certainly has held up since the late 90s. with a cast of up and comers that are well known now, like Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett, Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, and Usher. Yes, the singer. This was a time just after Rodriguez stepped onto the scene with Desperado, and just before Spy Kids. When the film came out, it was a time post-Scream, but wasn't trying to do the whole meta concept with aliens invading. I think Rodriguez has had a lot of ups and downs. This could be a way to come back, especially since he has gotten better with practical effects, like in Planet Terror. I love the way that he did the effects in that. But some of his CGI is pretty wonky, a la, Spy Kids. So I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be the best film to remake, but if done correctly, it could work. Now, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But honestly, I don't know how I feel, because I really loved this film when it came out. Because I remember watching it, we had on VHS, and it's not like it was one of my favorites, but it was very interesting. I loved seeing this. It had a clever twist with the Josh Hartnett's character, and I don't care if I spoil it right now for you guys, but he's a drug dealer. He's just a screw up in high school, and it turns out the drug that he's selling, because the way he sells them isn't those clear pens. He would you put it in there, so then basically you could unscrew it and make it look, during school or whatever, or at home or whatever, and you can just keep it in you just you sniff it out of there and you do the drugs like that. And it turns out that specific drug he's selling there's a specific chemical in there or something. I don't remember exactly, but it causes the slugs that are taking over that burrow themselves into their hosts, the people that they're taking over. It causes them to die, so none of the hosts have to die, just the slugs that are in there, because it has something to do with drying them out or something, because they need tons of water. And that's one scene that we see where they're all standing in the rain, I think, or they're wetting the field or something. I think it's the rain, and they're all spreading their feeler things, and yeah, it's a pretty good movie. For what it is, for being in from the 90s and everything, and just being this kind of suspenseful, adaptation of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's pretty good. So that's why I feel it could work too, where things have changed since then, right? So it's more about screens and interacting and who you're influencing. So maybe it could be something like that. I don't know, but it could be good. But then again, we have seen over the last 20 years that a lot of remakes come out and they just fall flat on their face. They're just well, we should have remade that one. Some of them are okay. Others are just yeah, that was actually, a decent remake. But for the majority of it, a lot of people would probably say, the time to remake things ended with the 2010s and the early 2000s or 2020s. But I mean, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. Robert Rodriguez is producing it, so maybe he could keep it a similar story. But then again, it's well, then why reboot it, right? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to reboot. And it could be that he's just run out of ideas and he's just going back to, let's just remake this. I don't know. I feel honestly, he should be trying to give us something new. Maybe give us more in the Desperado universe. Or maybe, honestly, I would love to see him direct, if they're going to continue Evil Dead, I'd love to see him do an Evil Dead. Robert Rodriguez's Evil Dead. That'd be pretty cool. But we'll have to wait and see. So 2023 had a lot of great horror films and a lot of not so great horror films. I, like I do every year, failed to see as many as I can. But the ones that I did get a chance to see, I want to go over and give my brief thoughts on. There were only 14 horror films from this past year that I got to see. Oh my god. So I'm going to start with my least favorite and ending on my favorite of the year. And so let's just kind of get down to business. So starting from the bottom, and I'm just putting it down here because it was just a little bit of a disappointment from the build-up and from the amount of time it took. Even seeing like the practical effects that they took and steps that they took to make this film, Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm sorry, but it just, like, with all the lore that they had and expanded universe stuff with the games, with the books, with this and that, and the movie we got was just kind of like, like, it didn't follow the lore, and I understand that they're going to be doing that more with the sequels, but it has so much behind it, and there was so much build up with this for so many years that it just kind of fell flat. I mean, I think it was an okay movie, and it did get a little bit of flack for, I think, critics and audiences alike. But even with all that, it still just was like, you had so much to go off of, so much that you could have built from, and you didn't. And I love the practicals that the Jim Henson Company built. I love all that. The acting was pretty okay. I just wish there was a little bit more deaths or kills. I don't know. I just wish it was a little bit more scarier. I just wish, that Blumhouse, they've done scarier films than this. I don't know. I just feel like you could have done something really great with this. And instead, now we're having to wait till the sequels to see more of the lore, if that. So, I don't know. That's why I put it towards the end. Next up is A Haunting in Venice, which is based off of an Agatha Christie novel. It's a mystery. Ooh, it's spooky ghosts. It's the third in like the more recent Hercule Poirot like movies we've been getting from, what's his name? God, why am I blanking on the actor's name? He plays Hercule Poirot. Oh my god. Whatever. Anyways, Kenneth Branagh. That's his name. And the original story is called Halloween Party, or The Halloween Party, and they changed it to A Haunting in Venice, which just sounds like one of those generic, A Haunting in Connecticut, A Haunting in South Carolina, A Haunting in Georgia, those movies, and it kind of put me off at first, because I was like, this can't be a Hercule Poirot movie. It's called A Haunting in Venice. I thought it was one of those. But then, seeing the trailers, and I was like, oh, this could be kind of good. I think I know how it's going to work. And then I saw the film, and it was okay. It was a little slow. I like the build-up to the film was a lot. In the beginning of the movie was really good. But just as it keeps going, it's a little boring. A little dry here and there. Kenneth Branagh is fine as Hercule Poirot, and I think Tina Fey does an okay job in it. Overall, though, this wasn't the most exciting film. It didn't do anything too crazy. It wasn't that scary. It was fine. I mean, from everything else that came out, it was just okay. Like none of the movies are really terrible or bad by any stretch, because I mean there are some bad films, but the ones I'm talking about right now, none of them are really that terrible. But let's move on to number 3, or it's going down. So the next one, the next film that I'm looking at, that one was Brooklyn 45, For any of you that have who don't have Shudder, it was a Shudder exclusive. It's a story about this group of friends who knew each other or know each other from the war, World War II, and they get together because their one friend, his wife, died, and he's trying to do a seance to bring her back. But then he has like some German lady locked up in his house, but we're not sure if like she's a real person or she's a spy or maybe she's a ghost, because then they start getting locked in after they do the seance, and it's just all this stuff and like just what they go through. Like I wasn't expecting some of the stuff. My only problems were with some of the like timing of things, because the way that they say everything is, I think it's supposed to take place at a certain point in time, but the way they talk about everything like it happened like years ago. But then you realize that like, oh, it's only been like a few years maybe, so you're not really sure when everything is. I don't know. It does have a pretty like bleak ending. I will say that, like, it's pretty kind of fucked up. Honestly, it really is. But I remember watching it and I was just like, yeah, this is good. But it didn't do anything too crazy. Didn't do anything too exciting. Again, it was just like, It was a well put together film. I just wish like maybe if it was set a little later, and it would have made a little more sense to like when you see, if you are gonna watch it, when you see the actors and you just look at the actors and you're told how old they are, and then you're like, wait, this didn't happen when they were like younger. And I don't think it did. That's the weird thing. It's like, I'm pretty sure they were like this only happened like 5 years ago. So, but they talk about it like it's like age. It's like, oh, like she was the one who did this back then, like way back then. So, maybe I'll review it one of these days. But I don't know. It wasn't really that. It didn't get me like that excited to like, oh, I gotta talk about this one. Next up, we got The Nun 2, Back in the Habit. That's right, everybody. The Nun's back, even though she was banished in the first one, and then she comes back again later in The Conjuring 2. But then she's back again in this one. I don't know. Honestly, at this point in the Conjuring universe and everything, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care like what's going on anymore, because after a certain point, like with Annabelle and then the third Conjuring, it was just like, all right, I already saw The Nun. I'm in it to see the next one, and it is still kind of weird though that like, what's her name? Not Vera Farmiga, her sister, Taissa Farmiga, that she plays this younger nun, and then like Vera Farmiga plays a whole separate other character with Lorraine, and it's just like they do kind of look similar though. Are they supposed to be related? But we find out they're not. It's just kind of weird. I love Taissa Farmiga though. I wish she was in more things. But she does an okay job in this. I think this one was, like, a lot of these are just, like, it is okay. Like, I don't think it was as bad as, like, people said it was. Especially with being The Nun, too. I think it has a lot of good, like, darker parts that are just like, ooh, that was kind of chilling right there. And there's a lot of, like, scary things. I think the trailers make it seem scarier than it is. But there, like I said, there are some pretty scary parts. And if you're invested in this already with The Conjurings and Annabelle and and you saw the first Nun, then yeah, you got to see this one. This one just kind of shows you that like, oh, it can continue on even after it gets banished or whatever. And if they did a Nun 3, honestly, I'd be there for it. At this point, I'm just like, yeah, I'm invested. I want to see it. It is ridiculous. I think that they got, I forgot what the girl's name is. She's been in a few things. She's, I forgot her name, but she plays the other nun, and she does a really good job. I think, what's her name from, she was in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I can't remember that actress's name either, but she comes out in this. She plays like a teacher or and like a mother at the school or the wherever that they are, and she does a pretty good job. I think this was a pretty good continuation. I like that Thaisa had to the character had to chase the evil. You know, she had to go get it. She had to go find it and stop it once more. You know, not like, oh, it's returned and we got to get her back. No, she's on a mission from God to go stop the nun again. That's why it's the Nun 2, Back in the Habit. No, I'm just joking. But honestly, like I said, a lot of these are just there. There's going to be a certain point where it's going to stop being me just saying oh, it was just fine. It was okay. So that's my kind of idea, or my thoughts on a lot of movies are, most movies are pretty okay, are pretty fine. They're solid movies. There's nothing in it that really made me say there are some parts where it's did we need to, the overall thing of did we need a Nun 2? Maybe not, but I think it's fun. I think it's a fun movie to watch. Most horror films, they're fun to watch because they're ridiculous sometimes. They do scare you at some points, but overall they're just a fun ride. And that's where I'm gonna move into this next one. It's Insidious: The Red Door, because that's another continuation with another person from The Conjuring, Patrick Wilson, and we do get to see the what's their family, whatever the family name is. They came back with him and Rosebud and the two kids, and now the kid's older, and they suppress the memories because with Elise, she used her conjuring insidious magic to take away all the memories and the trauma that they experienced from everything that happened in the first two. And I like that it wasn't just a new story I like that it connected back to the first one. We got to see more of the ramifications of you can't just hide trauma. You can't just hide these things. You got to deal with it. You got to talk about it. You got to face it head on. And that's kind of what this was talking about, especially when, we start off at the mom's funeral, and she's the one who kind of instigated everything. Not everything, but to begin with, she's the one who got Elise involved originally back when Patrick Wilson was a little kid and he was dealing with the white-faced lady or whatever, which turned out to be that serial killer guy who was a cross-dresser. And I think the only thing that I feel with this is that it did drop the ball with giving us more information on the lipstick face demon or whatever, the Darth Maul demon that the jump scare from the first one, that scared the shit out of everybody for the longest time. I think it should have been more of us finding out more about that character. I think we learned more about his dad, Patrick Wilson's dad, and that he also the reason why he killed himself was he was suffering from this kind of stuff and not dealing with it, not facing it, and that's why I think also this film is about past trauma and dealing with generational trauma. And that's what I like about horror, is that you can deal with a lot of things without having to like explicitly say this is what it is, but this is what it is. And this was another one where it was just like, yeah, it was fine. I like the idea of like, I really wish it kind of would have ended with like Patrick Wilson would have been stuck having to hold that door, and that's what he's like. That's what he's kind of like his. I don't want to say his punishment, but like his life has been leading up to. Oh, I'm going to be stuck here, having to hold this thing back, so that my family can continue on. And then they kind of pulled a Dark Tower. If you've read the Dark Tower, where the kid, he just decides to paint over the door and shuts it out. But then we see that the light comes back on. For any of you who haven't seen it, I already also did a review on this one too. Just go back and check it out, but or watch the movie too. But yeah, like, so we kind of get a hint that, ooh, maybe this thing isn't quite as locked away as we thought. And we're getting a spin-off with Kamal Nanjiani that's coming. I don't know when it's supposed to come out. I think it's supposed to come out next year or maybe the year after, but also the writer's strike derailed. The writers and actors strikes derailed a lot of projects and like pushed a lot of things back, so we have no idea when that'll be coming out. So let's just move on for now. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. That one was, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a solid like retelling of Dracula without having to retell all the other parts. I like that it starts where the ship is abandoned and it comes ashore, and we see that there's the journal of the captain, and that's kind of where in the story, the book, you know, you kind of learn about what happened on the last voyage of the Demeter. And I like that they just decided, you know what, let's just take that and make a film of just that. Because it's really just this kind of like quick snapshot of, and yes, I don't like the the fact that like, oh, it's this guy who comes aboard and he knows all this, he knows all that. It's a little ridiculous. But after you get away from the beginning of the film and you get into it right out, it is pretty suspenseful. Like, I love the like shadows that they use. They keep the creature, the Dracula, in his like Batman form, Man-Bat form, pretty hidden throughout the film. And I love that this idea of like they find this girl that was locked in there too, and I think she's supposed to be like food for him also, and she's like bitten and stricken with with something, I don't remember. But like I said, it's still a fine movie. It's still a pretty good one. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was gonna like it. I didn't enjoy certain parts as much as I thought the whole thing would be, but I liked it as a movie. Like I said, like, I just don't like the way his character was introduced to be like, oh, he's a jack of all trades. He can do this, he can do that. And he just so happens to save the captain's kid, and that's when he gets aboard. I don't know. That to me is just a little But like I said, once we get into the meat of things, I really liked it. I thought it was a pretty good one. I need to get this one. There's a lot of things that I need to get in physical media. I've been trying to get more and more physical media myself. But if you haven't seen Last Voyage of the Demeter, check it out. If you like Dracula, you'll really like it. If you like vampire-y stuff, like if you're into like pirates, no, I'm just joking. You won't like it if you're into pirates, but it is a solid one. It is a solid movie. Now is when we get really into the ones that I truly did like. I would honestly say go out, watch these ones. They are stellar. The direction, the acting is phenomenal. The story is pretty good. The way it makes you feel is like so. We're gonna start off with Infinity Pool. So if you don't know, I think it's Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son. He's been making films. I know he had one, Possessor, or something that he did, and then I think he has another one. I can't remember, but I remember I had heard about Infinity Pool, and I had seen some trailers. I didn't really know what this movie was about. I just knew certain things about it. And then, I mean, me and my friend, we love these kinds of films where either like it's like these high concept sci-fi or horror or fantasy, and this one is like it's body horror, and it's just crazy. I don't even know what to say about this one. This one's so crazy and weird. If you haven't seen it, you're not going to understand it. Like, it's basically like these tourists who are in this world where, like, they're sectioned off in their world or in their place, and you can't go visit where, like, the native people are or the people who live there. Like, and if you do, it's against the law, and then you can be charged for murder. Not for murder, you can be charged with murder, and they kill them. But you, and this is a spoiler, okay? So if you don't want to know, you can skip ahead. But you find out that they are able to essentially clone you or replicate you, and so there's another you that stands in for you and will die for you. And so they keep doing these things, and they keep the main character keeps, and that's what's his name, Skarsgård, not Bill Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård. He keeps doing these things, and they keep going through this process, and the people he meets, and that's Mia Goth, who's one of the like locals or people who they go around doing it. It's such a weird, fascinating film. That's why I love. I love David Cronenberg's films too, like The Fly, and I didn't see all of it, but Crimes of the Future was a fucking trip from what I saw. And then like Scanners is amazing. Videodrome is one of my favorite films of all time, but it's just like I don't even know what to say. Like, it is such a weird, crazy movie. It's not. I wouldn't say the acting is on par with like a Yorgos Lanthimos film. That is completely a different kind of weird. This weird is like just where the story you get. You're just like, what is going on? Why? Like, because they start becoming addicted to it. It's so weird. It's so. Oh, I gotta get this film too. I want to like watch the like behind the scenes and like the special features. But yeah, this was honestly it was like earlier in the year. It was a solid film. I highly recommend this one, especially if you're into like the body horror type films. Next up, we got an adaptation from a Stephen King, and I love Stephen King. One of his short stories, and honestly, I had tried to adapt this myself. I wanted to make. I wrote a script for it. I wrote like a short script for it because the when you read the short story, it's not that much to it. It's basically this guy going for like therapy, explaining that, hey, the boogeyman is real, and I didn't believe my children, and it killed my kids. Now it wants to kill me, and it ends with like you finding out like the therapist. It hasn't been the therapist the whole time. It was the boogeyman itself. But honestly, I loved this adaptation. I thought it was pretty good. This one also came out earlier, the middle of the year. About I took my nephew to see it with my mom. He liked it. I liked it a lot too. I know that there were some people who were like, it's kind of generic and the monster this and that. I was like, but it really wasn't. I loved the design of the boogeyman that they took, where it has like the hands that are like opening in the mouth. Weird. And I like this idea of like, yeah, like the boogeyman would be afraid of like the light, and like the little girl literally has to like wrap herself in like the Christmas tree lights, and I think at one point doesn't she get thrown? But it's suspenseful. It's a dark film. It's like another one where it's dealing with like the death of like the mother and them trying to move on from that. And it's just really, honestly, I think it's really a really good like film to just like you put on and watch, and it's got some scary parts, it's got some traumatic parts, and it's pretty good. I liked it a lot. I thought, this was a pretty good adaptation. I think Stephen King's adaptations have been pretty good so far. Like nothing except for, I would say maybe The Dark Tower. That was the only like letdown in the last, like, when did it come out? Like 2016, 2017? So the last, 6 years has been pretty good. Like there hasn't been anything that's been like too like, that wasn't good. That wasn't a great adaptation. This was a pretty good one. Like they take certain parts from it and like they build up the suspense from this, just like in the short story. And I like that it kind of leaves you with like, is it still around? Is it still, the boogeyman still there? I liked it. I know not everybody liked it, but I liked it a lot. All right, we're getting to another divisive one. Knock at the Cabin. And that's only because, one, it's M. Night Shyamalan, and two, because it's an adaptation. It's adapted from a book. I know the ending of the book is a little different from the ending of the film, and you can take the film's ending, you can take the book's ending, but I'm going to just go with what I know from the movie, because I did read up on what the book is about, and the book seems a little bit darker, and it's much more ambiguous. I do like the ambiguity, but I do like in this movie, in the film, that it was very much more like, no, this is happening. Like, the apocalypse is going to happen if we don't kill one of you. And it's a very, like, dark movie. Like, and see, like, this is where I think M. Night really shines. It's like, he shines when it's just, like, a smaller, like, setting where there's not too much going on. And he's got a clear cut, like, here's what the motivation of the villain or the antagonist is. Here's the motivation of the protagonist, and let's give some more information from there. Like he does some flashbacks and stuff like that. But like the acting is pretty good. I think like Dave Bautista, honestly, I think needs to be in more things because he is a solid actor. He is a really good actor. Ever since, like, I always bring this up, but he has one small little part in Blade Runner 2049, and it is like masterful, and it shows just how like you don't need a lot when you're acting, or you don't have to overact. You can do it so subtly. It's so good, and this one he does a pretty good job too. Honestly, I think him, Rupert Grint, they all do great jobs. God, I just wish more people liked it. I know like a lot of people did not like it. My sisters were like kind of upset that they changed the ending, and I'm like, I get it, but like you're like you wanted because I'm gonna spoil it right now. You wanted the little girl to die. She dies in the book, and they have to live with that, and they don't decide to kill they're supposed to kill one of their own as a family. They're supposed to decide. not the other people there. They're just there to show like, oh, we're gonna kill ourselves if you don't die, and to like present them with the evidence and stuff. But like, dang, you really wanted to see a little kid die, huh? Wow. I do like this ending. It I like it because it's a little bit more like, wow, this really happened. You don't have to have some ambiguousness of them like, well, we're gonna just journey out and figure out what happens. No, like, this really was the apocalypse if one of them didn't die. And it's a sad journey to there. But I liked it. That came out, I think, like maybe January or February of this year. Wow. But yeah, it was another good one. I like this one a lot. This next one is more comedy than horror, but I reviewed it too. I think I reviewed all the rest of these ones except for one of them, and that's Renfield. Though this one right here I'm talking about is Renfield. I liked it a lot. I saw it twice. I think that at first I was like, what's his name? Who plays Beast? I forget his name. Oh, I don't know if I want to see that. But then I heard that Nicolas Cage was going to play Dracula. And if you didn't see the incredible weight of incredible talent or something, the one where he plays himself and Pedro Pascal's in it, that movie was hilarious, and it kind of made me feel like, okay, I think this might be a pretty good one. And I love his take on Dracula. He's just over the top and ridiculous. I think that Ben Schwartz also in it was hilarious, and he's hilarious. And I know Awkwafina gets a lot of flack for using a black scent to get famous, and I wish that didn't happen, but she is a really good actress. In The Farewell, she does a great job. In this, I think she does pretty good. I love Awkwafina. I think she's amazing. But yes, I will knock her down a peg because it's like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to culturally appropriate to get famous because you're already funny. And I don't know why you would do that. But anyways, still, I like this one. Like I said, like, this one was pretty good. It was funny. It was ridiculous. It was over the top. I love that, like, it's just this, like, terrible, like, bad relationship that they have. That, like, oh, they can't quit each other. And, well, what's he going to do without him? And, like, this and that. And it's just so ridiculous, over the top. It's fun. I love when he like decides to go good and he changes everything, and it's like his apartment's all nice and neat and like colorful, and then that's because he puts out that mat that says welcome, so Dracula's just able to walk in. I love that like little joke of, yeah, like if you have a welcome mat, that you're telling people that they're welcome to come in. So it's so ridiculous. I love the fact that like at the beginning he like got like burned by the sun. He's been trying to like rebuild himself all these years and stuff. It's just a solid, like, funny movie. I love when he's with the group and the guy tells him, oh yeah, come on in, and then like he just massacres everybody, and it's just such a good time. And I love that, like, oh, he just eats little bugs and bam, that gets him ready to go to take them all down. It was a really good one. I like this one. And like I said, I saw it twice. I didn't mean to see it twice, but I ended up seeing it twice, and still great time the second time I saw it. Now we get into the ones that it's like, yeah, man, these are the ones that I was ranting and raving about all year, and we're going to start with Evil Dead Rise. I thought this was a solid continuation. I love that, like, we get to see a different place other than just the woods of like the Evil Dead manifesting. And I love the idea that, like, hey, maybe it's gonna start spreading to other places. And I love just the beginning. The opening was amazing because that's like where we get like how it spread and all this. And like because that's like the post part. Like that's set after what everything that happens, and it's just so. Oh, this movie was so good, and I love the idea that there's like three different types of or three different Necronomicons, and they just happen to find another one, and it's just so crazy. This movie was so good. I loved the effects were great. It was a little slow at times, and the only major complaint is that it's not. I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish it would have been gone on just a little bit more. But I love that they're like just trapped in this one place, and like all these people just start dying and becoming deadites, and then like at the very end, she has to just take a shotgun like Ash, and bam, just boom, boom, just kill these, and it's this thing that forms together to create like a deadite creature, and it's just so crazy. It's amazing, and like this is what I want more of from like Evil Dead. Like I know that we got Ash versus Evil Dead, and I just want more of that. Like I want more to see. I want one movie where it's just gonna show like it just spreads everywhere, and now you got to take down more deadites, and that would just be hilarious and awesome. And you bring back Bruce Campbell for one last movie, and you just let him go ham on everything. Be pretty good. It topped a lot of people's lists for this year. But I honestly, I think they're going to continue with it, and I can't wait to see where we go with it. Even if it's to bring back Ash, it's to connect to like the remake with Jane Levy. Even if it's to give us another standalone story, like honestly, it'd be pretty good, pretty solid. I'm here for more Evil Dead. So the next one is a little like, man, I just wanted another one just so we could see like how you're gonna wrap this whole thing up. And it does suck, but I kind of feel like this was a pretty good like ending, since that's kind of what we're gonna get for now. But Scream 6, it came out early in this year, I think January or February, I don't remember, and I know it was really early this year. But Scream 6, you know, it was a year after Scream came, knocked everyone's boots off, and everyone was like, yeah, see, this is Scream, this is what we wanted. And then we got this one, we're like, oh, you know what, we didn't know we wanted this is so good. And Scream 6 delivered on everything, like adding to the story, taking us to a place like New York that we'd never been to, setting it at Halloween, a time that, like, honestly, I'm not sure why they hadn't tried to take advantage of that before, and giving us 3 killers instead of just the standard 2 or 1. But I think I have a theory about the third one, that it's actually, there was another killer, but whatever. This movie was pretty solid. I love the twist where I love that, like, oh, like it's Richie's family, and they're trying to get revenge. And like we got to see like callbacks to all the other Screams, because that's why it's like, man, I kind of hate that this is like probably the last one we're gonna get for a while. Probably because Spyglass was dumb and they messed up and they're stupid. But I mean, it was a like if you told me this was the ending, even before hearing all what they did, and they were like, oh, we're not gonna do it anymore, that was the last one, I would have been like, yeah, that seems pretty right. Like, it kind of gives you that kind of, it doesn't give you a satisfying ending, but it gives you enough of an ending to be like, yeah, I could see it ending right there. You don't need to continue it, but there's just like some things that I wish they would continue with, like they were setting up like with the mom a little bit more. They could have explored like her and what's his name, Billy Loomis, his whole like background, and like maybe you could even brought Stu back. Maybe, I know that like they said he's dead, but they have that like theory that he's not dead. Ooh, I mean, you brought Kirby back for this one. You could have brought her back again. I don't know. You could have tied it to like the fourth one. You could have tied it to like the third one. You could have tied it all around. They were kind of doing that with like that Scream 2022, the fifth one was kind of like kind of like a remake of the first one, and then this one was kind of like a retelling of the second one. So the third one can be kind of like a retelling of the third one, and we could have got some connections back. And it's just kind of like, man, what could have been if like all this ridiculous stuff didn't happen. But it doesn't stop this movie from being amazing. I love seeing Ghostface with a shotgun. Like, you still get like that. Like, I love the way it started too, where it like throws everything you think of like Scream out the window, where we get to see a killer kill and then take off the mask and then they get killed. So it kind of does like the what? It's kind of that thing with like Scream 4 where it gives you like the meta openings and the opening to Scream or to Stab 5 was the opening of Stab 6 or something crazy like that. So this movie is good. This movie is so good. I love Scream 6. It's probably one of my favorite ones. Scream 2 is now my favorite Scream. Then maybe probably like the first one or this one. And then like the fourth one's really good. The one that I like the least is the third one, unfortunately, because that one, there's just a lot of like, they dropped the ball on that one. And if they come out with another one, and they don't rectify everything, if Spyglass is still doing it, and they don't try and like fix things, then I'm probably not going to even see that one, which kind of sucks, because like I said, I really would love to see a continuation with these characters. I liked the characters. The characters were great. And yeah, sure, you can say whatever you want, like, oh, none of the characters died. It's like, why does everybody have to die? Why does everybody have to die and everything? You guys are dumb if you think that everybody needs to die. So let's move on to the next one. And this next one, I don't know if I want to classify it as a horror film. It is classified as a horror for some people just because, at the end it does get horrifying. It does get like into like a, I don't even know. Like there's parts of it that are like truly like horrific, especially if you're someone who's an introvert. Like this movie is not going to make you feel well at all. It's going to make you be like, no, don't go outside your house. And it's Beau is Afraid. This movie was, I didn't even see any marketing for it, but from what I saw, I don't even know if they knew how to market the movie, because if you know nothing about Ari Aster other than Hereditary, I feel like you know nothing of Ari Aster, because if you saw The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, you would already have some inkling that this movie would be a little weird and over the top, and just there's just so much that happens in this movie, and so many, it's just like, it makes you feel like, am I crazy? Am I the one? Is it me? Am I the problem? It's me? Like, you're trying to be like, with Beau, right? You're trying to sympathize and see through his eyes. But just looking through his eyes, it's like the world is terrifying. It's full of homeless people that want nothing but to just break into your house and squat. It's you trying to get to your mother's funeral and ending up essentially a prisoner in a family's house, and they're taking care of you, and then you break out, and then you find these people who are watching a play in the middle of the woods while you're being hunted. You sit and you watch this play, but it's a play about you and your life, and it goes through your whole life, and you have a whole life in this play, like from being a young man to being an adult to then being an old man who's lived his life, and you're old and you're on your deathbed, and then explosions, and you come back to reality, and oh, this has just been a play the whole time. You've been watching a play, and this hasn't been your whole life, and now you're running away, and you finally get back to your mom's house post the funeral, and you meet the girl that you were in love with as a kid again, and she likes you now too, and you want to have sex with her, and she wants to have sex with you, but you remember that your dad died because he had sex with your mom, and that's what killed him. And so you think that that's what's going to happen to you, and then what ends up happening is she dies, and then, to top it all off, your mom's not dead. She put on this whole thing because you kept blowing her off because, oh, you were supposed to visit her, and then you didn't because the homeless people broke into your house, and you lost your keys or whatever, and you couldn't get back into your house. And so this has been her way of punishing you. And then she takes you to upstairs where now stick with me, right? And see, I don't even understand how Ari Aster pitched this, because at some point he had to tell them what was up in the attic, because there's been this whole time there's been sounds in the coming from upstairs in the attic, and he's remembering about his brother and going upstairs and then never showing up again, or some weird thing, right? He remembers. It turns out what's up there is a penis monster. That's the only way to explain it. It is a penis monster. It is a monster that has balls and is a penis. It's up there, and it scares him, and then he's put on a boat, and he drifts out into an arena, and he's put on trial in front of everybody, and he loses the trial and is drowned, and that is Beau is Afraid. It is a ridiculous movie. It is over the top. It is hilarious. It is horrifying. It is everything I wish that every movie was always, because it is just, that's what I love in movies. Things that are just non sequitur, that are just absent of any logic, that are just ridiculous, that are over the top, that are crazy, that are taking what you think movies are and turning it on its head. It is a masterpiece. I want to see more from Ari Aster. I want Ari Aster's brain to leak out and drop every idea he has, everything. I want to see it. I want to see what are his dreams like. There's no words. When I saw this film with my friend, and my friend has the same kind of, like you said, likes the same types of movies like me, like this, and there's the only comparison I can think of is a Yorgos Lanthimos film like The Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer, or another Ari Aster movie, or maybe the guy who did It Follows. He did Under the Silver Lake. That was a great movie. I would consider it to be something like this, where it's just a bunch of kind of strange things that get tied together to the main character. Honestly, if you haven't seen this movie and you listen to everything I just said and you're not interested, I don't know what type of movies you like, but I'm not for you. This place ain't for you then. because that movie was so good. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I think Joaquin Phoenix is a really good actor. I'm not saying he's underrated, but I feel like people like to discard him a lot. Especially like he does a fine job with Joker. I think it was okay, but I think like her he was great in her. He was also great in what was the film? You Were Never Really Here. That's the film. That was a really good film. If you have not seen You Were Never Really Here, I highly recommend that film. It is so oh my god, that movie is so good. He's like an independent contractor hitman type of thing guy who's hired to steal this girl from this guy, like this kind of like gangster or mobster or something. But like he's hired by this like businessman type of thing, whatever, mogul guy or something. I don't remember. He does it, but then he finds out that like she's being trafficked with this guy, that they hired the people who hired him to get her back, and it is such a good movie. I don't know why a lot like this is why I'm like he's a really good actor. You guys got to see his other films, not just The Joker. You got to watch his other stuff. It is really sad that his brother died early on in his career because his brother was a great actor too. But like I feel like a lot of people just see that and they're like, oh well, it could have been with River Phoenix. And it's like, yeah, but he still does a great job. Like I said, her, I was never really there. Don't worry, he won't get far on foot. I heard is a really good one too. I wanted to see the Sisters Brothers, and then Napoleon. I haven't seen, but I heard he does a pretty good job in that one as well. So honestly, go see Beau is Afraid if you can. I got to get that film or the Blu-ray, physical media for that. So good, so good. Now, before I talk about the best horror film that I saw this year, I want to talk about one that I thought came out this year, but actually it was released last year to like on like the film circuit, like the film festivals and stuff like that, but it wasn't released onto Shudder until this year, and that was Skinamarink. And I thought Skinamarink was a pretty okay film. I know it's very divisive. It's either you love it, you hate it, or there really isn't an in between. I loved it for the atmosphere that you get from this movie. If you're watching it alone in a dark room and you have no other distractions, this movie is scary as hell. But other than the atmosphere and the feeling you get, that's why they made it, there really isn't a lot to it, so I can see why people were turned off by it. But I really like Skinamarink, only, like I said, because it makes you feel like you do, like when, like it's that feeling you got when, like, I remember when my mom would take, a long time ago when I was a little kid, my mom would take my dad to work because we only had one car back then, and like if I was a little kid and if I was sleeping in their bed and I would wake up and they were gone, but but you're like half asleep and you're like, where did everyone go? And you're in this kind of drowsy state, you're feeling like disoriented and you're uneasy because like what happened? Why did everyone disappear? That's the feeling I get from this movie, and it's unsettling. Besides that, though, there really isn't much to talk about the film. There isn't. There's hardly any acting. There's hardly anything else. It's all atmosphere and ambiance, and that's about it. So that's all I'm going to say about Skinamarink. All right, so on to what I think is the best film or horror film from 2023, and that is Talk to Me. Right off the bat, it was a breath of fresh air. I loved it from beginning to end. It wasn't anything I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like, oh, we opened this doorway, now we got to close it, this and that. And like, it kind of was that, but it really turned into like them, like Infinity Pool. They got addicted to this thing, kind of like Flatliners too, where, you get addicted to being possessed by the dead, and then to the point where, like, this movie is so fucked up. Like, when the kid gets possessed, and because, like, of her mom, so she lets it keep going, and then just what it does to him, and then every time he's awake, it is because it's possessing whatever thing is possessing him, or multiple things, because they're all trying to get into his body, are just ravaging his body. When she sees, like, in the other place where he is, and then just this movie was so good. Like, I can't believe these YouTubers just came out of nowhere from Australia and were like, hey, let me give you one of the best horror films of the year. It was really set up really well. I love the idea that, like, they have plans for not just a prequel, but a sequel. They know where this universe is going. They know how to get to where they were going to get. That it opens with, like, this person killing themselves. And that's not a spoiler because that's how it opens. That's how the film opens. And we're going to see more of them. And then, like, exploring this world of, like what is the hand, right? This was a good film. This was such a great film. I loved it. I did a review of it. So if you want to hear my thoughts on it more, go back and listen to that episode. But yeah, those are my top films for 2023, or at least they're the ones that I saw and where I kind of ranked them. And Talk to Me was probably the best one. Now, let's look ahead to the films coming out next year in 2024. I think I'm just going to kind of run through these because we're already at like an hour and something. So, and I kind of want to give you a couple of terrifying tales. So, let's just kind of go through some of these really quick. I'm just going to kind of go down. This is kind of what's coming out throughout the year. Up next in like January, I know it's Night Swim, and that what I've seen of it looks kind of interesting. So I think I'm gonna go see it. It's one of those things where it's like it's a haunted pool. You know what I mean? Like how much more could you do? Like when I hear that, I think of like Poltergeist, the scene where she's in the pool and the dead bodies start coming up, and that's what I kind of get from it. But I know it's gonna be more than that, but it's just a pool that's haunted, so I don't know. And then there's Imaginary, about like the imaginary friend that is like the bear, or is it supposed to look like the bear, or it takes possession of whatever, like the teddy bear. We didn't get too much about this until recently. It's another Blumhouse film. Blumhouse is on a roll. They're cranking them out like they always do. This one kind of seems a little interesting. I just wish I had more information about it. I know it's like you kind of discard your imaginary friend, and what happens if the imaginary friend is real and wants you back? So that might be a pretty interesting, idea. This next one is Lisa Frankenstein. From what I can read, it's kind of like a coming of rage story. It's Diablo Cody, so it could be pretty good. What it sounds like is like her boyfriend or the person she likes dies and she brings him back. So it's like any other like take on Frankenstein like we always have seen before. So maybe it might be pretty good. I don't know. The next one I haven't. Some of these I hadn't heard about until like I looked them up. Like Lisa Frankenstein, but this one too, The Watchers. I hadn't heard about this. This one sounds actually pretty interesting, and I want to see it. It's like I guess like a girl or maybe a couple. They're like in the woods, but then they end up like they're like traveling through like some country or something, backpacking or whatever. But they come to like a cabin or something where there's a bunch of other people, but there's things in the woods that are hunting those other people, and so now they're hunting them. It sounds really interesting. It sounds just right up my alley. I love when there's like things or monsters and hunting people in the woods and stuff. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I can't wait to see. I haven't heard anything about that before. I'd never heard about it before, and so to me it was like, ooh, pretty interesting. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to see this. I really want to watch her. I know I'm ridiculous, but it sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. So with A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2, they've been on a pretty good roll. We're gonna get a prequel called A Quiet Place Day One, and I think it's Digimon Hansu, who we saw in the sequel. I think we're gonna get his character's backstory and how they got to be on that little island, and then that's when what's her name? She comes to the island and then brings the aliens with them. So we know what happens eventually, but now we'll kind of see how we got to that point. I don't know. I like A Quiet Place. The first one was pretty good. The second one, I thought the second one was pretty good. I liked the second one. I know a lot of people were kind of about it and this and that. Like, how can they age so much between? It's because it was a couple of years. Okay, guys? Like, and like, yeah, sure, maybe they do some dumb things, but people in horror movies always do dumb things. That's why we watch horror films, because they're always doing the dumb thing that you're like, no, don't do that. And in all honesty, it's probably going to be fine. It might not be like what everyone wants, or maybe it explores more about like what happened that first day. I mean, we got to see a little bit more of that in the sequel, and that's why I kind of like the sequel, because it's kind of like it does that thing where it kind of shows you, like, it's kind of like a prequel and a sequel, where it shows you a little bit of what happened that first day. So that's what I'm hoping, like, to see, like, maybe a little bit more of, like, the aliens from that first day. I mean, it was called Day One. Also coming out next year is a movie called Trap. It's from M. Night Shyamalan. You know my love-hate relationship with M. Night. There's movies that, like, Signs, Sixth Sense, Split, Glass. These movies that I absolutely love from him. But then he makes terrible movies like Last Airbender, The Happening. And I didn't really like The Visit. I know other people like The Visit. I didn't like it. But there's so much that I'm like, you can make such good movies and then you make such terrible movies. But he's been on a pretty good roll for the last few years with Split, Glass. Old, I thought, was pretty good. I liked Old. And then Knock at the Cabin was pretty good. So there's not really much known about Trap right now. So I'm just going to wait to see what we get to learn from later in the year. And then also, Alien is getting a sequel. Smile is getting a sequel. Terrifier is getting a sequel. I know I don't really talk too much about like the Alien series, but I think I'm going to do a series on them for when that movie comes out. Terrifier, I think the same thing. I'm going to probably talk about those films because a lot of people really like them in the horror field, or what do you call it? Like the horror, whatever, in the scene, I guess, of horror. I've never been a huge fan of art and like Terrifier, but I haven't really watched those movies that much, or I haven't seen any of them. So hopefully, maybe if I watch them, maybe I'll be like, oh, okay, I see why everyone really is like, you can't wait for this next one to come out. And then Smile. I talked about Smile earlier this year. I really loved Smile. I wrote it off to begin with because the trailer looked a little cheesy. But then I went back and watched the movie, and it was so good. It was such a good movie, and I really can't wait to see how they expand on this monster that like only you can see and is smiling, and like what they do, what you could do with it, where you could go with it. Honestly, can't wait for any of the like those sequels that are just coming out. There's a lot of sequels coming out next year, but those ones are really the one. I can't wait for these ones. I'm gonna skip the one that I have listed next because I want to talk about that one last. But next we got Jordan Peele's newest film, his fourth film after we got Get Out, Us, and Nope. 3 phenomenal movies. Get Out is amazing. It was nominated for Best Picture. Us was like, how do you top Get Out? Us. It was a stellar film. When I watched it the second time, after watching it the first time, it made me feel even more like, and just bad in like the worst and best way. Like it gives you those feelings. And then Nope. Like, how do you top Get Out and Us? Nope. Nope, honestly, is my favorite so far. I know, yeah, that one too is another divisive one that you either love it or you hate it. You either got it, you didn't get it. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I think everyone does a great job. Daniel Kaluuya, what's her name? Keke Palmer. Sorry, I don't know why I was blanking, but Keke Palmer, amazing. Keith David, Steven Yeun. This was such a great film. That's why, like, I can't wait for his new. We don't even know what it's called. It's like with Nope, we didn't get that until like we got the poster, and then we got little things here and there. I just love that he's like a master of building, like up his movies, so you can kind of be like, what is it going to be like? When we heard about Us, we didn't know what it was going to be either, and little by little we learned a little bit more here and there. God, I need to get those films too. There's so many movies I need to buy and get on physical media because I'm, like I said, trying to get them on physical media. Don't have to worry about streaming anymore. But then let's move on to the next one, The Conjuring, Last Rites. Hopefully it's good. The third one was a little kind of slow and boring. The second one was okay. I like that they took this approach they talk about the Amityville horror story in that one. I think it's the second one they talk about it, where they touch on it, where they're like, nothing really much happened, but like this had a bunch of stuff happen, and that was pretty good. The first one obviously was a great horror classic. This one hopefully is pretty good, especially because the last time we saw them was in Annabelle Comes Home. That was the third one, and I mean they all three. I mean they do a great job. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga. So hopefully this one was pretty good, and maybe it's the last one. That's why it's called The Last Rites. But The Devil Made Me Do It was like, it was okay. But the one that I'm super excited for the most for next year, just because it is a remake, but it's Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. And just everything I see and everything I hear about it, and just from everything I know from, The Witch and Lighthouse. I didn't get to see, what was the one with the Viking? I wanted to see it, not Mad Men, whatever, I forgot what it was called. But I wanted to see that. I need to see that one, but this one, it just sounds like he's gonna give us something amazing. Maybe I'm building it up too much, but it just, everything I hear about it just sounds awesome. Just like from like Willem Dafoe, just every little thing. It's like from the stuff that I see, like the set photos too. Like I'm just like, this just looks and sounds like it's gonna be a great film. hopefully it is. Hopefully it knocks it out of the park. Because he's really good at like getting the little details to like the time period right. So that's what I'm hoping like we get correct. So that's what those are the films from 2024 that I wanted to talk about. There's probably more that'll pop up here and there that I'll probably talk about throughout the year that we'll get to, probably review eventually. But yeah, these all sound like pretty good for the most part. Some of them sound more interesting than others. Some of them sound like, okay, it's just going to be like a sequel, or this could be interesting, like with Lisa Frankenstein. That sounds pretty good, but like maybe like with The Last Alien, it wasn't that great. Alien Covenant wasn't the best, but maybe Alien Romulus is pretty good. Who knows? But I have high hopes for like Nosferatu, Jordan Peele's new movie, Smile 2, Trap. So maybe it'll be a pretty good, solid year for horror again. Cross my fingers for that. Here's to hoping for it. It's been another year over, and a new one has just begun. Just to let you guys know, this is going to be the last episode just for a few weeks. I'm going to try and get everything back on schedule. I'll be trying to expand beyond horror this coming year and try to get some guests on here. Probably do more with TikTok. I'm going to try and do more with YouTube as well. Maybe, if I can get everything working the way I want it to, get onto Twitch. Not sure. So hopefully everything will be ready to go in the middle of January. I just want to make sure that I got some episodes ready to go. I know like there's times throughout the year, this past year, where it's just been like, wow, we've gone a week or two without an episode, and I didn't have anything in reserve ready to go, and just kind of hectic, because like not going from not having a job for most of the year and then having a job at the last part of the year kind of sucked, especially when this job is very all over the place, and it's hard to keep a steady schedule. And I'm gonna get back to putting these out every Saturday, so hopefully we'll get back to that. But till then, thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any strange, mysterious, or unexplained stories? Are they fact? Did you craft a story yourself? Would you like us to read your stories? You can either email them to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to read them on the podcast. We'd also like to post those stories to our socials on Instagram, Threads, or TikTok @HorrorboxPodcast, where we also have updates and news. One last thing, if you like the podcast and would like to support the podcast, you can buy me a coffee. Buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It would really help out. Hopefully you had a great year, and hopefully you have a good new year. We'll see you next time and hear what comes out from the horror box.